Generational trauma is the most frustrating thing I've ever gone through. Like, why was I born into this? I didn't even ask for this. What the hell, God? What are you doing to me? I don't want to be involved in this bullshit, but here I am trying to process it, and I guess so are you. I'm just seeing a lot of stuff. As I'm doing my healing, this involves a lot of like meditation and a lot of getting mad about things that happened to me in the past and that are still happening. And so I did have to go through that part of like getting really angry at my parents and like family for like doing really shitty things that aren't right. But at the same time, because I'm also spiritually healing, I'm able to have love for these people and understand that they have their own set of issues and that all they're doing is simply projecting. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with me. It's just a projection of issues. I know there's a lot of people that are like, move out, it'll make everything better. First of all, I tried moving out. It'll create World War III in my house because that's just how it is. It's really looked down upon in our culture to like fucking move out, especially if you're a girl. So anyways, people have moved out and they don't have relationships with their parents, they don't have relationships with their family, and they're doing much better, and that's amazing. Like, I'm not saying anything wrong about that. It's just I personally feel like I don't want to go that route because I want to have a relationship with my parents. It's like almost like the more light that I see on my spiritual journey, the more of that light I want to bring to the people I love. I get that some people might not be in the space for that, and that's totally cool. Like, honestly, that's not even expected. I have that in me for some reason, and it kind of sucks because I could just easily leave and say fuck off to everyone and not care, but I just don't. Like, I'm just not able to do that, which makes generational healing a bit harder because now I've set out on a journey to heal my parents as well, which is not the smart move. It's like you are trying to enter a fire and you will get burned. I tried to set up a lot of good boundaries and explain why I'm setting up these boundaries. Sometimes, especially at the beginning, my mom didn't understand why I was setting up these boundaries. Like, she was just like, oh my God, you don't love us anymore. Like, oh, whatever, manipulation tactic. She just didn't actually understand that I'm doing this out of love. It's not like I don't love my parents anymore. It's just there's so many things when you're trying to heal generational trauma that come out because your parents suddenly think that you're a smartass, like you're being a smartass, and you're trying to tell them all these things that you learned through therapy, and they don't believe in therapy in the first place. So it's like, no, I'm just trying to show you another way of thinking and a better way of thinking that will make life easier in your day-to-day. That's it. I'm just trying to help. But sometimes your parents and your family and people in your life don't want to even hear it. So at that point, step away. Don't let yourself get burned in the fire. It's just very coincidental that my generational trauma healing process is happening at the same time as my spiritual awakening. And it's a lot. Another thing about generational healing, trauma, whatever, I have to let myself feel my emotions. I wasn't the type to ever cry a lot or anything like that. Again, I always suppressed my emotions, right? So I wasn't the type to cry a lot, and now I'm crying a lot. And again, this is not a negative thing. I think we've just been brought up in a society that expects everyone to be smiling and happy all the time, and if you're sad, there's something wrong. But really, processing is gonna involve crying and feeling your emotions. Dealing with something is where the suppression comes in, and it's more acceptable in society because you don't show your sadness and you're not sad, blah, blah, blah. And if you are someone also going through the same thing I'm going through, trying to heal and all this shit, then yeah, you're probably crying a lot, and that's okay because you actually notice how much better you feel after you cry. It's like you have been your whole life a bucket. You've been holding this bucket growing up because you love your family, you love people in your life, and the bucket's always getting filled with other people's emotions because you're just trying to make everyone happy. And sometimes what happens in this process is you don't allow your own natural abilities, your own personality, your own development to really happen because you're so on alert mode and you're always trying to like help other people's and deal with other people's problems. If there's a fight in the house, you got to be the buffer. If your mom or your dad are arguing with something, you have to make sure that the fight doesn't happen. You try to say something and insert yourself to like not make the situation happen and not make the fight happen, or try to stop the fight. Like, you're literally in the middle of the fire, and because you're a kid, you don't really understand that this is burning you, but you don't know any better, right? And this is a reality of a lot of people. Growing up like that can sometimes push your natural abilities, your natural tendencies, and your own personality to the side because you're literally living in survival mode. So then comes a point, and for me, maybe a couple of years ago came a point where I started exploring who I was and started realizing that everything that I've done up to this point in my life has been for others. and for society and what's considered normal. And again, I'm also a mirror of you. Like, I'm probably saying very similar things to what you're going through. When you start to heal, a very beautiful thing happens where you start to find out who you are. You start to get closer to yourself because you're actually healing, which is you showing yourself love. Your thinking changes. The way you view the world, the way you view certain people, situations completely drastically changes, and it changes for the better. Healing is really hard. We're all alone, if you think about it, on this planet. I mean, there's no other person in the world that knows how you think, is in your body, knows how you feel, knows all the things that you're going through. So you're alone. At first, an unhealed person, or a person who hasn't even started healing, I should say, views that as such a scary thing because it's scary to be alone. But the more you start to heal, the more you start to understand that loneliness is a concept created in our own heads. It doesn't really exist. You are alone, but you're never really alone because we're all going through the same thing on this planet in just different forms. And that's my spirituality bit for you. Some things that I actually did tangibly in this reality to start healing is, again, I already mentioned meditation. If you haven't ever meditated, hop on that shit. Start meditating in whatever way you know. It does not have to be perfect. Don't be a perfectionist. Just start. Another thing I started doing is being more honest. I had to be vulnerable. Like, I just didn't have an option. Like, it's very surprising how much my parents came around and understood what I was saying. Or maybe they didn't understand what I was saying, but maybe it's the way I was saying it was so lovingly. It wasn't blaming manner. I was literally just stating the obvious, but in a very loving way where they didn't feel like they had to defend anything because I wasn't trying to fight. But at the same time, I was staying out of it, if that makes sense. Like, I was like, as a family unit, we got to do these things, but I also am a young adult and I'm also going to go travel and venture off and figure out a perfect career for me and do all these things. So at the end of the day, you have to do this with each other. I'm not going to be involved because I can't get burned in that fire. I'm still in the middle of my healing process. So these are like the tad bits I wanted to share. I'm going to make this into like a series, I'm assuming. I think I'm going to get into a series because every single week I'm like evolving at a very accelerated pace and I have a lot of realizations and I actually have nowhere else to go except the camera, which I love. It's actually a lot of fun for me to talk my heart out at something that won't reply. If you're going through this, there's a light at the end of the tunnel for all of us and things will get better. Impermanence is my motto recently. Anyways, I'll see you guys next video. Much love to you all.